Started. Welcome everyone to our monthly La Mesita webinar titled Estoy Super Zen, Integrating Cultural Values in Mindfulness and Meditation Practices with Latinos, presented by Chris Cuervo. So as usual, just want to encourage you all, if you are on the call and you have the capacity to turn on video, we'd love to see you. You know, we're all pretty distant these days, so at least seeing each other on video can be helpful in small ways, in large ways while we're on these calls. I want to ask you to test your video and your audio as well. We might encourage you during the Q&A section of the presentation to unmute and ask some questions. So if you need to do that, you just hit that little caret next to your microphone and then hit test speaker and microphone. We are providing continuing education credits for this call through Greensboro APEC. So you should receive those after you complete the evaluation after today's webinar. And just wanted to give a quick little overview of our La Mesita program. So we have these monthly webinar series. They happen the fourth Friday at 10 a.m. We also have our learning cohort. Requires an application. So this is a 5-month-long course on culturally responsive practices. And it's really a small, tight-knit group of professionals from across the state that can come together to learn together about how to better serve the Latinx community. And then we also have our ECHO case consultations. We're actually taking a break on that soon. Today's one of the last sessions, and these are sessions where we have folks come on and present a case and receive consultation from providers across the state. And you can also always join us at la-mesita.mn.co. That is our network, and you can get plugged into that. You just go on there, make a profile, and you're off and running, and you have access to, I think we have over almost close to 800 people in the network right now of folks around the country and the state doing this important work. So moving on, I want to introduce our speaker today. So who is Chris Cuervo? So Chris was born in Venezuela to Colombian parents. She came to the United States in 1998. I think we have a similar history. That was the same year I came here. Since then, she's moved around a bit in the US and Mexico, and she's currently in Toledo, Spain, just outside of Madrid. So she's beaming from international space today. She received a Bachelor of Arts from University of Illinois Springfield and a Master of Arts in Mindfulness from Lesley University, which is where my partner went for her expressive arts therapy master's degree. Which is really cool. So she's a meditation and mindfulness teacher, a speaker and writer. She's a founder of almaespiritu.com. And this is an organization that their mission is to guide people in the transformation process of embracing all of life experiences with a sense of calmness and joy. And she is the author of Pertenecer, which is a book which she has published, and we will link to that after the presentation today, and then once we post about this on presentation on the network. Well, not done yet. So with that, I'll kick it over to you, Chris. I'll stop sharing, and you can go ahead and start sharing from your end.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, I see all the faces. Hello. That's wonderful.
We have 64 people and growing so far.
No pressure, no pressure. Wonderful. Okay, so let me share here.
You're sharing, you just have to hit present.
Hit present.
There you go.
Okay, so thank you for that introduction, Juan. What an amazing person. I want to meet her. But thank you for that. It's easier when they say it than when I say it. So thank you for saving me that part. But anyway, so today we're here to talk about integrating cultural values in mindfulness and meditation practices with the Latino population. So even though I lived in Spain, my heart is very American. I spent most of my adult life in the US. And I'm very grateful because right now I'm experiencing again the life of being an immigrant and getting to know a new culture. So all these things that I teach, I actually get to practice them a lot in a new environment. So it's amazing. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself that he told you. I'll keep sharing some things as they come up throughout the training or the webinar. And if you have questions, please feel free to chat. I think we have some time at the end that you can also ask some questions too. So anyway, so this is a little bit of what we're going to do today. We're going to do a lot of practices and then content. So a mix of both. So it's going to be very interactive. So you can get a little sense of what I'm talking about. I think the best way to, for those, I don't know, who's a meditator here? You want to raise your hand? Okay, lots of you. So we're not doing any long meditations, but we'll get a little glimpse. But I think the best thing about mindfulness and meditation is that if you try it, you have to try it to see for yourself, to judge for yourself, how it feels and if it's something that you want to bring into your life. And we'll talk a little more in detail. But now I want to learn a little bit about you because Juan already told you about myself. So we want to hear about you. So there's going to be a poll that Megan will be sharing. And if you want to share what is your discipline, what type of work do you do? And if you want to click on the one, and then if it's not listed, maybe you can choose other and type it in the chat. And then once we have most of the results,
go ahead and publish.
Okay, we can see it. Social work, wow, a lot of people. Counseling, the second, okay. Psychology, medicine, case management, community services, and other. Wonderful, amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Some folks in the chat have shared clinical social work and public health.
Okay, and the other, okay. Okay, so we have a good variety of people. Wonderful. So another question to see, it's a lot of people, so we have to do it like this. I don't like that we do it like this, but we would love to hear from each one of you. But just so we get a little more into, who you are, what is your heritage? What do you consider yourself? Maybe your nationality, ethnicity, whatever you feel like, it's your heritage. I would love to hear if you want to put it in the chat too. My heritage, personally, I consider myself Venezuelan, Colombian Venezuelan.
You have another Colombian, Jenny Lopez.
Nice.
African American, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Cuban, Israeli, Italian, German American.
Well, okay.
Dutch, white lady, Criss Atkinson. Venezuelan, Mexican American, Chicana, Australian American.
Wow.
Colombian, another Venezuela.
I always joke because mine keeps getting longer. It's like Colombian, Venezuelan, American, now Spanish. So it's like my poor children. I love the diversity that is here. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. So let's talk a little bit about mindfulness before we do a short exercise. So some of you, I saw that raise your hands and share that you are a little familiar with mindfulness and meditation. So I'm not going to go too much in depth, but just like a basic review of what mindfulness is. So in an example, we all had mindfulness moments. And right now, perhaps, most of us have gone through quarantine and have been home, and some of us are finally, like, some of the places are opening up and you were able to go outside. and perhaps walk in nature for the first time again, or hug a friend for the first time again, or perhaps think of something else like a regular life, like, you know, remembering the first time you rode a bike, the first time you went, like doing something new. So that newness, like that's feeling of like you're fully paying attention, like, you know, you see your friend that you haven't seen in like 60 days and you see them, like you're fully present, you're fully aware, your senses, everything, and you're just curious and you're excited and you just want to see them. So it's this attitude. It's like an attitude of friendliness, curiosity, kindness, like when you travel too and you're in a new place and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful, and you know, you're curious about it. So that's an attitude that you cultivate. So mindfulness is something that you cultivate to be able to see life, whatever comes, in a way with curiosity and friendliness. So that's basically a very basic definition that can allow you to kind of understand what mindfulness is. And mindfulness can be cultivated through meditation practice. So through different meditation practices. So the way that you can be more aware and be more able to be more present with people and more present with the things around you, and just be with this quality of attention, is by having a dedicated meditation practice, because it allows the mind to settle, the body to settle, and be in the same place at the same time. So you're training the mind and the body to be in the same place in the same time. So let's do a short exercise. And you don't need to have any practice, and I invite you to just give it a try if it's something new for you. And it's very simple. So I'm just going to explain it, and then we'll do it together. So we're gonna do 3 respiraciones, in Spanish, 3 breaths. And I'm explaining it. So you can do it, but we'll do it after. So the first full breath, we're gonna inhale and exhale, and we're going to connect with the body here, sitting or wherever you are. The second one, we're going to release tension of the body, just like releasing it. And then the third, we're going to ask ourselves, what is our intention for today, for this webinar? So let's give it a try. So if you want, you can close your eyes. If not, you can just relax your gaze somewhere low on the computer. Just relax the gaze. And inhale deeply through the nose. Bring the attention to the body and exhale slowly through the nose or through the mouth, whatever feels right for you. Inhale deeply. And as you exhale, relax the body. You may move and shift a little so you can relax the body here. Inhale for the last time, deeply. And exhale slowly. Ask yourself in this moment, what is my intention for this webinar? It can be very simple. Just learn, be present. Whatever it is, in simple words, what's your intention? You can say it to yourself in silence. You sit with that for a second, with that intention. When you're ready, start bringing back the attention to the room. If you close your eyes, you can open your eyes. And return your attention fully here with me and the rest of the group. So this is a very short way to connect with that presence and calm that is always there within us. And sometimes we forget just to breathe and take a deep breath. So a little bit more about mindfulness. So I gave you like a basic definition, but now I'm going to give you a little more so we can continue talking about those adaptations and things that we can do. So mindfulness is basically going from autopilot to presence, to paying attention. So if you sometimes like you drive from home to work and you don't even remember the drive, or sometimes you are showering and you don't remember if you put shampoo on. So we're like on autopilot. And sometimes we don't disconnect for the present moment. So that's autopilot. So what we do when we want to get out of autopilot, of this automatic things that we do, that happens to everybody, that's very normal, is that we change from, we go from attention, paying attention, and then to paying meta attention. So attention is basically paying attention to something. The meta attention is the new thing that you cultivate, is the attention of the attention. So if I know I'm paying attention here, and all of a sudden something starts to move around here, I know I'm paying attention here, but I have distraction here. So the meta attention reminds me to come back to my attention. It reminds me to come back over and over again to my point of attention. So that's what we do when we are in the practice of mindfulness, returning to our attention. Another thing that we do is that we start to work with a perspective shift. So we start to work with a perspective shift of being what we think and being what we feel, and just going from, like, you know, our emotions and our thoughts are who we are. And we go to this experiential knowing that whatever is happening in us is actually an experience. So it's not us, it's an experiences that happen in us, in our minds, in our hearts, in our bodies. So we do that shift too when we cultivate mindfulness practice. And this shift, you know, these two shifts that I just explained, allow us to develop self-awareness and allow us to be able to cultivate self-management tools. And that's basically, you know, what we do in mindfulness and mindfulness practice. So a lot of you are in social work, and a lot of you are clinicians and psychologists and working with the mind a lot. And I always like to, you know, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychotherapist. I am a cheerleader for you guys. So when I teach everything that I teach and the people that I work with, we see this as a stepping stone into psychotherapy. You know, as you know, there are so many mental health stigmas more in the Latino community. So when I was doing my research and the work that I've been doing, this is an easier way to break some of the stigmas and to be able to open the door to our community that sometimes may be a little hesitant and resistant to mental health care. So this is you know, we always, when we teach and somebody is having you know, experiences and going through difficulties, that we can see that there's more dedicated help, we always recommend to reaching out, and we allow them to not feel guilty, and we help to open that door. So we're actually, you know, I see this as a friendship, as an add-on, as something that can work very well together from both worlds. You know, for also, I actually have people that have done therapy for anxiety, for stress, and they come back to maintain and to do mindfulness, to be able to have mental hygiene and self-care practices. So it goes both ways. So either people that have already done it, or people that are afraid to go to a psychotherapist and they want to start here. And then we recommend to move to the next step.
Chris, before
Yes.
we move on, we have a question from Leah Ray. She's asking, are we going to hear any, how to say these terms in Spanish, like mindfulness, autopilot, and attention?
Are we going to hear, I'm sorry?
I think they're just wanting us to translate the term. So I think mindfulness, I think I've heard it said as plena conciencia.
Sí, atención plena. And the concept of mindfulness is very, in Spain, depending on the countries, Spain, Mexico, I think Brazil, like there is, you know, some countries that mindfulness is the word that they use. So mindfulness is the word. Some countries like Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, they go more with like atención plena. In autopilot es piloto automático, ¿no? El piloto automático. What was the other word that?
Attention. Atención.
Sí, la atención y la metatención, que se traduce, the translation is literally like it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you for that one. Yeah, I don't see the chat.
Yeah,
so
no,
I don't mind. Okay.
Don't worry about it. I'll be bringing it to your attention.
Okay, thank you. So yes, so I wanted to share a little bit of the research around what we're talking about today here, which is, adaptations and cultural adaptations, and then what's happening in like mindfulness in the Latino community. So we were able to find 2 meta-analyses that were very recently published in 2019. And the 2, you can see the whole names here on the screen at the bottom. But Cotter and Jones was basically, they were looking at the feasibility and the efficacy of mindfulness-based programs in peer-reviewed studies. And the majority of people were Latinos or Hispanic. So this was mainly in the US, and it included about 20 different studies. And then the other one was Castellanos and colleagues. And this one was evaluating the current state of literature on effectiveness on cultural adaptations for mindfulness-based interventions in the Latino population. So the Castellanos study actually includes a little bit of it includes the US, Spain, and some Latin American studies. So it's a little more diverse in that aspect. So these 2 meta-analyses actually identify some of the adaptations that are being done by different people in the research world. And some of them I also done myself in my book I did, and some of the work that I do. So some are listed here, like language translation of materials, not a literal translation, not a Google's translation. It's always good to be able to work with the audience that you're working with. But some of the studies, this is a field that is very new. So there's a lot of possibilities, but I was a recommendation not to use either, like Google translation. People, so culturally match the clients and therapists. So if there's the ability to match people, purposely match people, that's ideal. Using metaphors, this is something that I use a lot in my book, in my work, like using sayings, using stories, and we'll do an exercise on this, dichos and things that can help people like feel a little more secure and like, trust the process. The content, including relevant cultural content in the curriculum. So that's why, at the beginning, we asked, your heritage. So maybe that's a question that you can start asking, how do you define yourself? How, so you can see what things are important, because for somebody from Mexico or from Venezuela like me, we have very different cultures and traditions. So knowing that, it's a huge plus, because you can identify what applies to that person. Goals, purposely discussions around clients' values in regards to therapy, and this is something that you guys probably do, but having those conversations, the methods, pragmatic and practical adaptations to accommodate the needs of the community. And this is something very important that I have been able to see even in my own work and without my espíritu, is being able to make things accessible. And that's why we do a lot of stuff online to make it, most like 90% of Latinos have mobile phones. So being able to do things they can connect from the mobile phone. And then also, if you're doing something in person, trying to think about transportation, childcare, some things that are very important that we will also touch a little bit on when we talk about the cultural values. But some of the other adaptations I've seen were in the context, there's discussions outside the intervention that may impact the client's work. So perhaps identifying if there is like some type of a cultural stress that may be impacting their well-being. So some are the things that were listed in some of these articles, and the research. And then these meta-analysis came to find that the first one with Carter and Jones, they suggested that feasible and acceptable, mindfulness-based programs are feasible and acceptable in Latinx populations. and may yield positive changes in a variety of psychological and health-related outcomes. So they're very, as I said at the beginning, I see it as a stepping stone, and I think the studies are showing that too. People are not as afraid to sign up for a meditation or mindfulness program than going to psychotherapy, because, you know, sadly, there's a lot of mental health stigmas in our community. And then for Castellanos, they found that culturally adapted MBI, so mindfulness-based interventions, are associated with depression symptom improvement, stress reduction, stress management, and chronic illness management. So this is very promising research. So both of the meta-analysis indicate that adaptations can work well, but there's, as I said, it's a very new field, and more quality work is needed in the field. So if you are a researcher, we need more, you know, more of that. And we're trying to do some of that in my own business. Okay, so if you need to take a deep breath, that's a lot of information. And let's see if I can do an activity with some of those things that we were talking about. Okay, so if you have if you want to find a paper and a pen, and I will give you a few seconds to do that. Okay. So hopefully everybody has a paper and a pen. And we're going to do a short grounding ourselves with our breath meditation so we can do the exercise. So just follow, I invite you to follow my voice. If you want to close your eyes, you may do so. If not, just find a place where you can relax your gaze. And perhaps taking a deep breath, inhaling, exhaling slowly. Feeling both feet on the ground. Perhaps putting your hands on your lap. Relaxing the shoulders, perhaps doing a little loop movement that will help relax the shoulders. And just feeling the whole body sitting here. So I invite you in this moment to connect with your breath, however it is. It's fine. Just kind of observe it and follow it for a few seconds. Feeling how the air feels coming in and going out. If you get distracted with thoughts, it's normal. Just bring your attention to the breath in a kind way. Wherever you feel it the most, perhaps it's in the nostrils or the belly. Slowly returning your attention to the feet. Perhaps start to move your toes. Wiggle your toes. Move the hands a little. You can move them. And slowly return your attention back into the room. So I'm going to invite you now to, for a minute, think about a saying or a dicho or a proverb that somebody that you love says to you a lot, like you have heard from your grandma, your mother, your sister. So some type of dicho, for example, for me, one that comes to mind is, mira con quién hablas, mira con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Look who you're with, and that will tell who you will be. That's like a really bad translation, but so think of a saying, and that doesn't have to be a Spanish one, because I know we have a very diverse group. It's just a saying that comes from your ancestry, from your family, that they say a lot. And I invite you to write it. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay. So let me open the gallery. Does anybody need more time? If you got it, give me a thumbs up. Yeah? Okay, once I have the camera on, okay. Okay, so now I invite you to write a little more. So another minute, and I will ring a bell this time at the end. So how does the ancient wisdom connect to something I teach and practice? Or perhaps if you don't teach, how does it connect to a mindful perspective that I just shared with you earlier? So how does this wisdom connect with mindfulness or what you teach in your practice? A few more seconds. Whatever comes up, there's no right or wrong answer. With that, you close that sentence that you were writing, if you're still writing. And let's see if we have somebody that wants to share their dicho or their saying with the group. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Juan, you're muted.
I've had a few come in through the chat, Chris.
Okay.
Amigo es un dólar en el bolsillo. From Elizabeth Uzcategui. Rebecca Carpenter says, mejor es el buen nombre que un buen perfume. So it's better to have a good name than to wear a good perfume. First one was a friend is like $1 in your pocket.
Wonderful. Okay. I like that.
Suzanne says, haz bien y no mires a quién. Do good and don't look who does it, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to translate.
Sorry for the translations here. Jandira says, no te dejes.
Don't let people like mess with you.
Estela says, adiós rogando y con el mazo dando.
Oh my gosh, it's hard to translate.
So that one's like praying to God and I guess hitting it with the rolling pin.
Okay.
So I think it's like, having faith in God and then being strong and giving it all you got, I guess, would be the translation.
Would somebody like to share their how they connected with wisdom, like with their wisdom now, like what they do now?
And we can invite folks to unmute. Might be quicker than typing it in.
Yes.
Hi, Jandira Zaki here, therapist at El Futuro. Mine is No Te Dejes, and it always came, like, all I think of is my dad and mom is like, no te dejes que un hombre te mande, no te dejes vencir, no te dejes, like, it just don't let anything. And I bring it into my practice in terms of like giving that boost to my clients. Like, you know, it's okay. I change a bit to like, it's okay if you feel like you're down now, but don't let that stop you for like a long period of time. Keep going, type of thing.
Thank you. I love that. Yes, you know, that wisdom, ancient wisdom that sometimes we don't pay attention to. You know, I started, when I started to do this and started to look back at those dichos that my grandma used to say and my mom says to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they have so much depth. So I love that depth from yours too. Thank you for expanding on it. Anybody else?
Good morning. This is Charlene. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My mom is 87 years old, and she's lived African American. And my mom's lived through many things, from being colored to being Negro to being Black to being African American, and through growing up without the clear right to vote. So just saying that as a background. And she's very clear, and she reminded me this morning over our morning tea, she's 3.5 hours away from me, is that spiritually we are to live in the language of hope. Oh, wow. And not just in reaction to all the news, which will have us easily sink into depression or despair. Now, not that those things can't occur anyway, but out of today's global news, without a language of hope, there is less anchor for your spirit. And so thank you for allowing me to share that. From someone that's had to live through and keep her family intact. So it's not just a theoretical exercise for her, but an exercise that has taken her through poverty and lasting until now. She has a very good retirement.
Thank you, Charlene.
Yes, ma'am. Wow. And I want to thank you. This is such a gift. So thank you.
You're welcome. Wow. That age, you know, and so a mindfulness practice is pausing and listening to that wisdom that we have in our heritage, in our ancestors. And if we still have them around, amazing, because they, you know, I think that's one of the things, life, the lives that people live have so much wisdom. So thank you for sharing that, Charlene. So maybe one more, if anybody wants to share.
I can share one.
Okay.
So, my mom used to always tell, she was a very generous person. So she was always doing these little acts of kindness to whoever she could. But she always told us growing up, lo que tu mano derecha hace que no la sepa la izquierda. So meaning what you do, what your right hand does, don't let the left. I mean, I guess that will be the literal translation, but the teaching behind it was that whenever we did something good for somebody, do not go and tell everybody what we did. Just let it be between that person and you. So I learned that since I was little. So even now, I mean, I'm not a therapist yet. I'm an intern. I'm in the master's program here at UNCW, but that's always been in my mind. So I taught it to my kids, and I try to practice it. You know, when I do something good for somebody, I'm not that kind of person that's gonna go and tell everybody what I just did.
Oh, wow. That's, wow, another deep one that it doesn't, when you translate, you can never really, just taking that time. Thank you for taking the time to share with us the depth of your teaching too. Thank you.
And I'm sorry for the streaks. We're working on clearing those up.
Okay. Maybe if I move to the next one.
I think they'll stay, but we can just keep going. I think we just need to clear the annotations. Megan's working on it.
Okay.
But you can go ahead, Chris.
Wonderful. Okay. Yes, so this is a practice that for you that work in the field and work with people, I think it's, as you can see, the power that it has. And that it's a way of making adaptations to the work that we do. So it's a way to bring it in. Okay, so you know the abstract work on our screen. No worries, we're gonna continue. So some of these specific, talking about the Latinx community and cultural values, and you know how we bring those into the mindfulness and meditation practices. So some of the things that I'm inviting you to consider, that these are, you know, these values come from research, not from me. It's, you know, what they've seen in the community, what it's important for Latinos, or overall Latinos, for all Latinos. So the first one is collectivism. So I'm going to briefly explain what it is. So basically it's in the Latino culture, we because I am Latina, we grow up and we come from a culture that it's all about the collective. So if decisions are made as a family, everything is like a family, like a collective, a group, everything is about the group. And when you come to the US, I don't want to box, but the general culture in the US is an individualistic culture. So there's a shock for Latinos, because collective, you know, they're always thinking about the family. Like a Latino would very rarely will move from California to New York for a job, because family will not be happy that he's moving and abandoning the family. So those are, you know, the values that are deep inside within us. So for those that, you know, that do have, you know, there are some people that are able to work with the clash of collectivism and individualistic culture, but sometimes it takes a lot. So that's one of the things that happens in a cultural stress, is that you're not able to cope with the clash of both cultures. So one question that you can ask yourself as a social worker, as a clinician, as somebody that is working with the community, is how can I honor interpersonal connections and relationships? Because we may not understand this clash, but how can I honor that? Because there is a difference on how you know, it's not, if you say to someone you come from a collectivist culture, they're like, what are you talking about? You know, it's something that is not known, it's something that is deep inside of us, and the ways to see how their interpersonal connections and relationships can be, how can you honor that? So familiarismo is the second one, and this one is and they're all interconnected, you know. So there's that actually the importance of family. Family is very, very important for in the Latino community. So how, as a you know, putting again a question, so how can I, you know, how can I bring these values into my work? How can I integrate family and friends into the work that I do? And you know, in some of the work that I've done, you know, I do exercises. I say, like, one example is that I tell them to find a recipe, like to cook mindfully. And I tell them not only cook mindfully, but now I invite you to call a relative and ask them for a recipe. And so right there, you're bringing in the family. And then you say, okay, and then you have the recipe, and then you can cook it by yourself mindfully and be with the recipe. That's a simple example. But the other one is simpatía. So simpatía is basically that attitude of politeness and pleasantness. So in Latinos, if you are a psychotherapist, you may find that it takes time to finally get to the issue and the stress, because there is this cultural thing about being, you know, pleasant and kind, you know, kind of like to even in the face of stress, you know, even if they're stressed, that they have this kind of like a mask or protective gear. And then confianza is, you know, reciprocal trust, so people can and the question that you can ask yourself, sorry, for the simpatía is, how can I offer non-judgmental attitude to hidden and unexpressed needs? So, you know, asking that question to yourself. So I invite you, it's really hard for you to come up with a question right now with the answer, but I'll invite you to, if you, to do a little bit of the work yourself, perhaps journaling, to kind of find ways that you can integrate this into what you do. And then confianza, how can I express my best interest is to be of service and help. Sometimes it's hard, and the confianza is finding that way that the trust is just reciprocal. So people can be comfortable to share their deepest fears and the things that really are happening within them. So creating that sense of trust. So how can I show that? How can I, express that my interest is actually here to be of help? And those are things that, it's hard to overcome at times, when we are working with our population, our community. So let's do a short.
Sorry to bother you. Can you stop sharing and then reshare? Because I think that'll clear it. Because I think it's on your account. So if you share again, hopefully they'll be gone.
Let's see again. I stopped sharing, right?
Yeah, now you can reshare.
Oh, yay. Okay,
There
perfect.
we go.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay. So let's do a short practice. And in this practice, it's a kind of like a meditative practice. And I'll explain a little bit before we do it. So we're going to, perhaps you can put in gallery view or find a person, one person. You don't have to connect with, just find someone that you maybe think is very different from you. They're not going to know. And pin that that video. They're not going to know. If you pin that video, you click on the three dots and you click on pin, so you can see that person. Or just find someone in the screen that you can connect in a meditative way. They're not going to know that we are, who is who and what we're doing. But we're all here together. So what we're going to work is on seeing similarities that exist across all of us, in spite of any apparent or presumed differences. So find that person and you can start perhaps seeing them. And now we're going to do a short practice. So I'm going to invite you to perhaps close your eyes or just relax the gaze. You can look down, whatever feels comfortable. And slowly bring the attention to the body, sitting here. And connecting with your anchor, which is your breath, wherever you feel it the most, perhaps in the belly, the nose, with just the entire body, just moving slowly, however it feels. I invite you to welcome that. And for a few seconds, we stay here to allow the body to arrive and be with the breath and settle. So I invite you now to open your eyes for a few seconds and find that person that may be a little different from you. And then you close your eyes again. With your eyes closed, I invite you to repeat these phrases and have that image of that person. This person is a human just like me. This person has been loved just like me. This person has been hurt or been sad at times, just like me. This person wants to be healthy, just like me. Perhaps taking a deep breath, inhaling and exhaling, and slowly opening the eyes again, seeing the person, drawing a small smile. Closing the eyes again, taking a deep breath to take in that smile, and remember that kind face. And repeating in silence, just like me, this person wants to be happy. And now I invite you to perhaps let go of that person and think of your family and your friends and your kids and your loved ones. And imagine them right there in front of you. And just thinking, all these people want to be happy, healthy, and safe, just like me. And now we expand this to everyone in the community where we are. And now we're going to extend the good wishes to all of them, including ourselves. And in silence we repeat, may we all be happy. May we all be healthy, including yourself and your loved ones and your friends. May we all be safe. Perhaps bring in your right hand or left hand to your heart to feel the body here and giving yourself a little support for that love that you were extending, that appreciation, that connection that you extended, and that willingness to do this. Taking a deep breath to slowly return back the attention to the room. And yeah, I can stay there for a long time, so I had to. So thank you for doing that, and if it shows me or for the people I love to everybody, and lots of the good wishes that we sent. So this practice, it's one of my favorite practices. It's a beautiful practice. It's by Rhonda Mcgee, and she's a lawyer and a mindfulness teacher, and a wonderful, amazing, very wise person. And she actually does beautiful versions of this. If you're interested in learning her versions of this, you can probably find some of her work. But this practice builds a sense of identity with one another. Sometimes we feel that disconnection, try to dissolve the sense of social distance, conscious or unconscious bias that may be there. We forget about those things, we put them aside, and we remember, that connects us. And it's a very strong practice to do, and beautiful in person. And so online, it's always, you lose a little bit of that. Okay, so cultural values, and I know we're running out of time, so I'm gonna have to not be as specific here, but some of the questions that you can ask here, you know, some of the things that are valuable for our community are fatalismo, personalismo, respeto, you know, those are some of the values that are also ingrained in us. So how can I work with them? Asking ourselves these questions. How can I honor and respect the religious and the spiritual beliefs of, you know, of the people that I work with? How can I be more personable, relatable? How can I respectfully and mindfully acknowledge the effects of positions of authority that they exist in our community and they're hidden, you know, they're not obvious out there. So we're going to do a short exercise and then we're going to close this. And I'm going to have the help of Juan. So I'm going to explain this exercise. And what we're going to do is we're going to listen with empathy. And I think most of you have had that experience. We do it with friends and family all the time. But now I want you to, you know, so listen with empathy. And then a little add-on. We're going to listen for, you know, when we're listening for empathy, we're listening for emotions. But emotions, and then we're also listening for cultural values that we talked about that are maybe present in the answer. So once we hear the answers, you can type in what you see here. So I'm going to ask Juan, you know, he's going to share a little bit about someone that he loves or admires. And what do you admire or love about this person that you're going to share? If you want to share, and everybody can start listening and for emotions and the cultural values.
Sure. And I just want to mention, I know we're running out of time, but we will be staying on for Q&A at the end. So some people might have to sign off at the hour. That's perfectly fine. But if you can stick around for a chat afterwards, please do. So thanks, Chris. I'm going to talk about my father. And I know that's pretty stereotypical as a Latino immigrant. But for my father, I used his saying in the exercise we did earlier, and he says, "Todo tiene una vuelta." Everything has a way of being solved. And that's kind of embodies my father. He came here to the United States with our family when he was 35. I'm 32, so I can't imagine what it would have been like to drag a whole family to another country and establish himself. He kind of knew English, but not that well. And he was able to establish himself and allow me to be sitting in front of you right now. And whereas my dad doesn't always, I guess, know how to express emotions or, I guess, have more physical shows of affection, it's clear that family is everything to him and that he would do anything and sacrifice anything for us. And a lot of the times that's shown through, I guess, giving like functional supports and, you know, financial supports. And sometimes I must admit, I'm left wishing for more of that affection. And I guess, you know, I grew up here and I value, I guess, more of that interpersonal chat that American parents sometimes may have with their American kids. But I understand that from the way that he was raised, he didn't really get that from his parents. So it's difficult for him to share that with me or to know what to even say. But I know deep down that he believes it and that he loves us and his family is everything.
Wow. Thank you.
So
Juan.
some of the comments that came in: admiration, pride, recognition, gratitude, familism, love, empathy, simpatia for dad, respect, pride. So definitely.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan, and thank you everybody that is sharing that. You know, and sometimes, you know, when we talk about people that we love, we don't even have to, you know, and it's obvious, Juan, that you love your dad and you admire him and respect him. And and thank you for doing this exercise. So in this, some of the things that, that you guys already I did is writing what I hear the person feel and what values we recognize when they're talking. We recognize here you're typing familismo, the respect, so those values are coming up, and so nobody will tell you, okay, my values are, it's not, it doesn't work like that. They're deep ingrained in our language and the way we speak, the way we talk about things, and the way we express what we feel. So thank you. Okay, so time for Q&A.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
Yes,
Go ahead, Chris.
thank you.
No, yeah, thank you, Chris. I know we're right at 11, but if folks can stick around, we'd love to just continue the conversation for a little bit.
Yes. So
Hi,
any
Chris.
questions? Hi.
It's Jandira from El Futuro again. I just want to say I completely love this presentation, especially with La Mesita cohort. I am doing my project on self-care. Couldn't find any articles specifically with self-care and the mental health. And now I didn't even think about putting down mindfulness, and seeing that there's at least 2 articles, recent articles that talk more about it, completely got my attention. I think you said something about a book. I unfortunately have to log off real quick, but
Yeah.
I would love to, if it can be put, the name of your book, if there's a way we can get in contact with you if we have any questions. I understand if you're busy, but the book itself or whatever you have will be
I just
great.
put it on the screen. Thank you, Jandira. And thank you for the work that you're doing, much needed. There's the book, and it's basically mindfulness and meditation, a self-led course, and it has all the adaptations in my way. I share my own story of, my personal story of self-care and the tools, and it's like you can do it yourself, and you can use it, with clients and with people. So it's available on Amazon. So
Yeah, and we'll definitely be sharing those links for folks after the presentation. Just because of continuing education credit, we can't do it until afterwards. But we'll be putting that on the network for everyone.
Yeah. Any other questions?
And folks can feel free to type in the chat as well if you don't have a microphone. I guess maybe I can ask you a quick question, Chris. Do you ever, how do you address maybe some of the reluctance that some people might have? Because I've run into folks that may be very strictly Catholic or Christian, and this is seen as kind of like an Eastern tradition, and people sometimes I've had some Latino clients shy away from mindfulness because of that.
Yeah. So when I talk about mindfulness, and I find, and I come across any barrier, I'm always very transparent, and I tell them that yes, the roots are, come from Buddhism and from these cultures. However, we have kind of peeled off the religious part. It has been peeled off, and now it's basically it has become a tool for self-care. And I always encourage them to continue their, I respect always their religion's beliefs. There's anything, any spirituality, anything, I always respect. And I just say, this is just an add-on, to the Christmas tree, just another add-on that you can put, a way to cope with life. And then you give it a try. Give it a try. Let's give it a short try. And then if it works, you can continue. If it doesn't, not push it. And most people, once you start to show, you do something very small like we did today, little things slowly, and see what resonates with the client, and then adding some adaptations, So saying, in regular life, how about you try taking a mindful shower? And they're like, what is that? So basically being in the shower and just trying to connect with the smell of the soap, with, you know, the sensation of the water. And that's basically a mindfulness practice. Doesn't have anything to do with it's part of the everyday life. Does that help?
Yeah, and actually we're getting some great suggestions from folks. So Kathy McGinnis, Deanna Para, and Andrew Hale are saying praying rosary can be a form of mindfulness.
Yeah, I love it.
In
Writing
Catholicism.
it in. Yes.
Deanna Para says also meditation is hinted at in the Bible, as well as the importance of silence when Jesus was in the desert. So Deanna also says, like, saying praying is like talking to God, and meditation is like listening to God.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yes, and bringing those connections, it's really also key in allowing them to say, you know, you can easily bring it into your own practice and make your, you know, being with the rosary a kind of more than a religious practice, we're also a meditative practice. So a little bit of both combining and seeing that there's more to that. And it's, as I said, an add-on to what we're doing.
And Suzanne.
Thank you for that, Diana.
Suzanne Meza then gives a very cute suggestion. So sometimes it just needs a different name. For my middle schoolers, I teach yoga, but I call it ninja training exercises.
That's fun. Yes. Yeah, sometimes.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Any other questions from folks for Chris before we sign off?
Wonderful. So if you want to do like a 30 seconds guided sit to be able to transition to whatever you're doing, you can with me, with us here. Would you like to do that?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So if you want to close your eyes for a second, and we're going to take 3 breaths like we did at the beginning. Inhale deeply through the nose. Exhaling through the mouth of the nose, connecting with the body here. Second breath, inhaling deeply. As we exhale, we relax the body. Third, deep breath. Inhale deeply. Exhale. And ask yourselves right now, what is important right now? Staying with that and slowly returning back with the attention and slowly transitioning to what's next. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have you unshare real quick and we'll just have the closing announcements?
Oh,
so
yes.
Folks can stay one for a little bit longer.
Yes.
So just want to announce our next webinar. We're doing the part 2 of our discussion on discrimination to build resilience in the Latinx community. This was a really great webinar presented by Dr. Gabriel Liva-Stein last month. And we thought because of how well received it was, and then also just the larger situation in the country right now, it warranted more discussion. So this will be on Friday, July 24th from 10 to 11. We'll be discussing things like colorism, within group discrimination within Latinx folks, depending on skin color. And then also discrimination from the Latinx folks to other ethnicities as well, and how to address that in therapy. So please consider joining us for this wonderful talk. And then want to always encourage you all to join us in our network at La Mesita. This is how you will stay up to date on everything that we're doing in terms of our webinars, our cohorts, and our Echo Clinic. So I think that's it. I want to say again a big big thank you to Criss for presenting this wonderful webinar. I feel like I just did some self-care and learned a whole bunch. So thank you so much for that, Criss. Really appreciate it. And thank you all.
Thank you for having me, everybody. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.
All right, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.